Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie and I'm wife to James and mom to 4 beautiful kids, ranging from 9 down to 1 with 1 on the way. My hope is to help other women experience postpartum as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 40. Hi lady, how are you? I hope you're well. Listen, 2 episodes back, Catherine Casey shared her experience being postpartum with a rainbow baby. And in this week's episode, she shares a glimpse into being postpartum after stillbirth, after the loss of her daughter Celeste due to anencephaly. It's not an easy episode to hear, as of course it was not an easy episode for her to record, but it's truly important to me to have this episode exist because stillbirth can and does occur. And if, God forbid, or when you or someone you know experiences stillbirth, I want you to know that you're not alone, that your story matters, that your voice is heard. So, here, briefly, Catherine shares something of what it was like to be postpartum. And after the episode, I will share a couple of resources in case you would like to learn more.
My daughter Celeste was diagnosed at 20 weeks with anencephaly. She was growing without a brain, and the doctor we saw was adamant that our baby would die during or soon after birth. I knew from other stories that it was possible that she could live a half hour, 45 minutes, a few days. There's some cases where the condition itself is not as severe and babies can actually live years with having an underdeveloped brain. But I felt from the ultrasounds and I felt in my heart that what we needed to prepare for was the peace of being able to say goodbye. Celeste died during birth in those final stages of bringing her to the light. I had prepared for many things with a birth plan, talking about comfort care, arranging for a child life specialist to be on standby to support my other children, Celeste's siblings, through the process of saying goodbye to her. But I wasn't ready for the experience of holding my deceased daughter. The trauma of having a baby placed on me, skin to skin, when that baby has breathed its last breath was one I don't think I ever could have prepared for. And trauma gets built into our bones after the event, so to speak. Through carrying her, my body became deeply connected to her body, and leaving the hospital without her was something I never could have imagined. It didn't feel right. My body ached to be united to hers, to be connected, to hold her. We went home the next day. It felt too terrible staying in the hospital longer. It was terrible to leave, but terrible to stay. And we began making the arrangements for her burial and mass. Some of this we had done already, but plans still had to be finalized. We would receive a free casket from the Trappist monks. I had a dress made for her from a friend of mine, by a friend of mine. We'd finalized the headstone. It only needed a day, the date added to it. There were these things we needed to take care of in order to honor her in the way we felt called to. And yet my body still had to heal, because we knew something of what would come after I delivered her. My best friend flew out from Minnesota to be with us, and she's actually the only friend of mine who's ever held Celeste. She came to the hospital and came home with us. She slept nearby at my parents' house, but spent the days helping us by cleaning and navigating our little children around the house with their daily needs, so my husband and I could grieve in the way we needed to. He needed alone time. I needed time to talk about anything that wasn't baby related. And we sat on my bed and talked about politics and culture. After she left, we had the funeral mass and the burial. And sometime through all this, my milk came in. I was still facing all the necessary parts of postpartum. The day my milk came in was incredibly painful, and I sat there attempting to have a conversation with my sister, but felt like I was dying inside, both from the physical pain and the emotional pain, which I couldn't express to her. A friend of mine brought cabbage leaves over and whatever the kind of tea is that you can drink for this sort of thing. And it was those little actions that helped us get through. I felt like I could have donated my milk if I had maybe known the person I was donating it to, but I didn't feel ready or able to make the dietary sacrifices that might be necessary for, or even the organizational steps for a formal donation of my milk through some kind of agency. These were the sorts of things we had to think about. Meanwhile, life had to go on with our other kids. We had a son whose medical needs continued, and my other children had their emotional needs. And after the funeral, I honestly felt a sense of relief. We had been waiting so long for her birth since I carried her to term that when it was all over, I felt like I could breathe again. I read that learning to live with these opposing emotions is actually a sign of, I don't know, emotional maturity or something, but I think that's what happens. I think that's the postpartum after stillbirth. It's holding both. You've had the baby, but you don't have the baby. Your milk is coming for a baby who can't drink it. There may be a sense of being ready to move on, and yet a part of the body, a part of ourselves will never move on. When I go to her grave, something feels so right because I'm near her body again, as we were meant to be. Now that 7 years have passed, these are the things I remember. Making space to hold the physical, the emotional, the light and the darkness, the grief of the one who is gone, with those who are present, and every person who says her name to me, and every time I look at her belongings, the things we collected and kept for her, something feels complete again, if only for a moment.
I'm truly grateful to Catherine for sharing her experience so vulnerably and openly. If you would like to learn more about stillbirth, I invite you to go to naturalwomanhood.org and search the content we have on stillbirth. If you are from a Christian, faith-based background, you might be interested in the book Nursery of Heaven, which includes the examples of both lives of the saints and then modern day parents who lost a child to miscarriage or stillbirth. I hope you have a great week, and until next time, I'll talk to you then.